Welcome to Reddit Revenge Stories. Did you know over 90% of our viewers don't subscribe? If you enjoy this video, please subscribe and hit that like button. We're targeting 500 likes on this one. Let's dive into today's tale. If someone had told me 5 years ago that the woman I loved would betray me, I would have laughed in their face. Rachel wasn't just my wife. She was my best friend, my partner in every sense of the word. We'd been together for over a decade, built a life, a home, 2 kids. I gave her everything I had and I thought that was enough. I thought we were solid. But looking back now, I realize how blind I was. My name is Mark. I'm not the emotional type. I don't make scenes. I'm not the guy who yells or slams doors. I've always handled things with a level head, which made what happened even harder. Because when someone betrays you quietly, subtly, without drama, it cuts deeper. You sit there in silence, wondering how long it's been going on, wondering how you missed it, wondering if you were ever really enough. Rachel and I met during our junior year in college. She was loud, outgoing, the kind of person who could walk into a room and immediately draw attention. I was more reserved, comfortable on the sidelines, watching. But there was something about her that made me want to step out of the background. She pulled me out of my shell, and for a while, we made a great team. We got married right after graduation. I got a job in IT, and Rachel started working in marketing. We bought a modest house in the suburbs, had 2 kids, and fell into the rhythm of family life. School drop-offs, soccer games, weekend errands. It was the usual, comfortable, maybe too comfortable. I worked long hours trying to provide, and Rachel handled most of the home stuff. We talked, but not deeply. We spent time together, but not intentionally. Still, I thought we were fine. The first time I noticed something was off, it was subtle. Rachel started being distant, not cold exactly, but distracted. She'd be on her phone more than usual, laughing at things she wouldn't share with me. She started going out more. Coffee with friends, work dinners, weekend errands that took a little longer than they should have. I asked her about it once, just casually, and she brushed it off with a smile. Just busy, she said. You know how life gets. I believed her. I had no reason not to. But then came Dan. Dan was Rachel's friend from work. At least, that's how she introduced him. She mentioned him in passing at first. He was part of a new project she was leading, smart, funny, easy to work with. I didn't think much of it. I trusted her. I didn't get jealous easily. But slowly, Dan became a regular name in her stories. Dan said the funniest thing today. Dan helped me fix the presentation. Dan and I grabbed lunch after the meeting. At first, I chalked it up to a harmless work friendship. We all have people we get along with at the office. But something about the way she lit up when she talked about him, it didn't sit right with me. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. The sparkle in her eyes, the way her voice lifted. I'd seen that look before. She used to give it to me. I tried to ignore it. Told myself I was being paranoid. But the feeling lingered, like a quiet hum in the back of my mind. I started paying attention, not obsessively, just enough to notice the patterns. Her late nights got later. She started dressing up more, even for casual workdays. She became secretive with her phone, turning the screen away when I walked by, setting it face down on the table. One evening, while she was in the shower, her phone lit up on the nightstand. I didn't mean to look. I swear I didn't. But something made me glance at the screen. It was a message from Dan. Just one sentence. Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about you. My heart dropped. It was like time froze. I stared at the words, hoping I'd read them wrong, hoping it meant something innocent. But I knew better. No one sends a message like that to someone they're just friends with. Not late at night, not with that tone. I didn't confront her, not right away. I needed time. I needed to think. I needed to be sure. The next few days were the hardest of my life. I went to work like nothing had happened. Played with the kids. Ate dinner with her at the same table, pretending everything was normal. But inside, I was unraveling. My mind raced with questions. How long had it been going on? Had she ever felt guilty? Was any of it real? I started digging. Quietly, carefully. I'm in AI. If there's one thing I know how to do, it's find things people think are hidden. I checked our phone bill, looked at the patterns of their calls and texts. I found a hidden email account she'd been using, linked to her old phone. It didn't take much to get in. And what I found confirmed everything. There were messages, dozens of them, some recent, some going back months. They met at hotels during work trips and late nights at the office. They talked about me, about the kids, about how they had to be careful. Reading those words, it felt like a punch to the gut. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just sat there staring at the screen, numb. That night, I lay next to her in bed, pretending to be asleep. She kissed me on the cheek before turning off the lamp, just like she always did. And for a second, I almost forgot, almost believed we were okay. But then I remembered everything I'd read, everything I'd seen, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to yell, I wasn't going to argue, I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken. Number, if she wanted a secret life, I'd give her one, but on my terms. I wasn't just going to get even. I was going to make sure she never saw it coming. This story isn't about revenge in the loud, dramatic way. It's about something else. Something quieter, smarter, and much more permanent. You see, when someone stabs you in the back, you have two choices: fall apart or stand up. I chose to stand. But first, I had to prepare. And I had to play the part of the loving husband just a little while longer. If you looked at us from the outside, you wouldn't suspect a thing. Rachel and I went about our routines like nothing had changed. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings, helped the kids with their homework, made small talk over dinner. I even laughed at her jokes. I was the same man she had always known: calm, reliable, unshaken. And that was exactly how I wanted it to be. I needed her to believe that I hadn't noticed a thing, that I was still the clueless husband she thought she could outsmart. But under that calm surface, my mind was working around the clock. I was laying the groundwork for something she'd never see coming. You have to understand something about me. I don't react emotionally. I don't explode. I calculate. And in this case, I decided I wouldn't just expose her affair. That would have been too easy, too predictable. She would have cried, apologized, maybe begged for forgiveness. We'd go to counseling, tell the kids some carefully crafted story, and eventually move on with a permanent crack in our marriage. That's not what I wanted. I didn't want a band-aid. I wanted clarity, and I wanted control. The first step was documentation. I took screenshots of everything: texts, emails, call logs. I printed them, stored copies on an encrypted drive, and kept them off-site. I wasn't going to confront her until I had everything I needed. I even hired a private investigator, someone I'd worked with on a cybersecurity case years ago. He was discreet, thorough, and owed me a favor. Within 2 weeks, I had photos, hotel visits, coffee shop meetings, long lunch breaks that were clearly something else. Dan, this man I had never met but knew everything about now, was a creature of habit. They always met at the same places, always kept their communication on specific apps. It was like they thought they were characters in a spy movie. They weren't. I studied every detail: times, locations, their patterns. I even figured out which days were most likely for them to meet. That's when I started phase 2. Rachel still used our shared credit card for most of her spending. She assumed I never checked the statements, and usually she was right. But now I was watching. I let her continue, let her get comfortable, let her think she was untouchable. Then I started planting seeds. One night, while she was out getting drinks with coworkers, I left a folded sticky note in her purse. It was subtle, just 5 words. He's not worth losing everything. No name, no signature. Just enough to spook her. The next morning, she was quieter than usual. She kept glancing at her phone, chewing on her bottom lip like she was trying to solve a puzzle. I acted like I didn't notice, made pancakes for the kids, kissed her goodbye, same routine. But she knew something was off. A few days later, I left another note. This one I slipped into the drawer where she kept her makeup. It said, "You're being watched. Be careful." This time, she looked pale, distracted. She called out of work and stayed home all day, pacing the house while pretending to clean. I watched from my office camera while pretending to be at work. She didn't know I had installed a security system that allowed remote access to every room. I had audio and video. She was unraveling, and I was just getting started. The next step was Dan. I didn't want to contact him directly. That would give away too much. Instead, I created an anonymous email account and sent him a few carefully worded messages. Nothing threatening, just revealing. I attached one of the photos of him and Rachel at a motel. The subject line simply read, "You're not as clever as you think." He didn't respond, but I know he got it. Because 2 days later, Rachel came home early from work, red-eyed and flustered. She went straight to our bedroom and shut the door. I waited a few minutes, then followed. "You okay?" I asked, my voice calm. She looked up, startled, like she'd forgotten I lived there. "Yeah, just tired." "Everything okay at work?" She hesitated. "Yeah, just some stuff with the new project. Stressful." I nodded slowly. "Well, let me know if you need anything." That was it. No accusation, no suspicion, just enough warmth to confuse her. I wanted her to feel safe, just a little longer. I started moving money, quietly, methodically. I opened a new account in my name only and began transferring funds from our joint savings, small amounts that wouldn't raise red flags. I set up a trust for the kids, consulted with a lawyer I trusted, got everything in order. Rachel had no idea that while she was cheating behind my back, I was reconfiguring our entire life without her. Then I planned the final act. Our anniversary was coming up. 12 years. She was already hinting that she wanted to go away for the weekend, just the two of us. I agreed, said it sounded perfect, told her I'd book something special and not to worry about the details. She smiled, relieved, maybe thinking this meant I was still completely in the dark. I booked a cabin in the mountains, secluded, peaceful, just the kind of place you'd expect for a romantic getaway. But it wasn't romance I had in mind. I invited Rachel, of course, but I also invited Dan. Well, sort of. He got an anonymous invitation sent to his work email, a fake corporate retreat for marketing professionals with limited spots available. The message promised networking opportunities, seminars, and best of all, a free weekend in the mountains. All expenses paid. And guess what? It just happened to fall on the exact same weekend Rachel and I would be there. I knew he'd bite, and he did. The day we left, Rachel was unusually affectionate. Maybe she thought we were entering a new chapter. Maybe she felt guilty. Either way, I played along. We drove up together, listened to music, even stopped for coffee along the way. The cabin was beautiful, modern but rustic. Warm fireplace, cozy kitchen, wrap-around porch overlooking the woods. Rachel was impressed. She didn't know I'd rented a second cabin down the hill, where Dan would be staying. I made sure the check-in times overlapped. I made sure they would run into each other. And they did. The moment she saw him, her face froze. She tried to play it off, waved, acted surprised, but I saw the panic in her eyes. Dan, for his part, looked like he'd swallowed a brick. He didn't even pretend to act natural, just mumbled something about a seminar and ducked into his cabin. Rachel waited until we were alone to ask, "Did you know he'd be here?" I feigned confusion. "Who, Dan?" "Yeah, from work." "Oh, weird, small world, huh?" I smiled. "Guess it really is a popular spot." She didn't say anything after that, but she barely touched her dinner, kept glancing toward the window like she was waiting for something or someone to appear. Later that night, while she was in the shower, I sent one final message. This time to both of them. It said, "Smile. You're not the only ones with secrets." No names, no threats, just a statement. The truth. And it was enough. When she came out, towel around her shoulders, she looked pale again. Shaking slightly, I offered her a glass of wine. She took it without speaking. The next morning, I acted like nothing had happened. Made breakfast, took a walk with her. Dan left early, claiming he had a family emergency. I didn't even say goodbye. Rachel didn't ask me any more questions, but I could see it all over her face. Fear, guilt, confusion. She didn't know what I knew. She didn't know how much control I had taken back. And that's what made it perfect. When we got home, she tried to return to normal, but everything had changed. I wasn't finished yet. The final piece was still coming, and it would be the most mind-blowing part of all. I came back from that mountain trip a different man. Not because I'd forgiven her, not because I'd found closure, but because I finally felt something I hadn't felt in months: clarity. For the first time since discovering the affair, I wasn't reacting. I was in control. I had the power. And Rachel knew it, even if she didn't understand how or why. After the trip, Rachel started changing. She was suddenly more attentive, cooked dinner more often, asked me about my day, left little notes for me in my briefcase like she used to when we first got married. It was strange, almost desperate, like she was trying to rewind the clock, trying to salvage something she suspected was slipping through her fingers. She didn't know how much I knew. She didn't know what I had planned. And that uncertainty, it ate away at her. Every quiet moment in the house, every glance I gave her that lingered a second too long, made her wonder. And that was exactly what I wanted. I didn't have to scream or accuse her. She was doing the damage to herself. But I wasn't done yet. You see, revenge isn't about shouting from rooftops. Real revenge is calm, quiet. It's when the person who wronged you ends up alone, confused and haunted by the realization that they lost everything, not in a fiery explosion, but by their own hand. That's where I was heading. I waited another month, played the part, smiled at dinner, took her to a movie, held her hand in public. I even started making small plans for the holidays. And while she clung tighter to me, I was tightening the final threads of the plan. I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer. We'd been preparing documents for weeks, things Rachel didn't know existed. I had gathered enough proof of her affair to nullify any claim she could have in a contested divorce. I'd moved the bulk of our savings into a protected account, one that couldn't be touched in court. The house? In my name only, refinanced months ago under the guise of lowering the mortgage rate. She signed the papers without reading them. I even had a custody strategy in place. That was the part I cared most about. Our kids. They were innocent. I didn't want to destroy their lives. But I also wasn't going to let them grow up in a home where betrayal lived like a ghost in every corner. I needed them safe, loved, and protected. So I waited for the right moment, and it came on a Tuesday. I picked a day when the kids were at a sleepover. I ordered her favorite takeout. We ate quietly, sitting across from each other, both of us pretending that everything was okay. Then, just as she was clearing the plates, I said her name, calmly, firmly. Rachel. She looked up, a little startled. Yeah? I know about everything. Her hands froze around the plates. Her eyes darted to mine. What? What do you mean? I leaned back in my chair, expression calm. Dan, the hotel meetings, the messages, the burner email, I know everything. The silence that followed was thick. She didn't speak, just stood there, blinking, face slowly draining of color. I could see her trying to decide how to respond, deny it, cry, confess. She didn't know which way to go. I wanted to give you a chance, I said, standing up. But you never took it, so now I'm taking mine. She opened her mouth, finally finding her voice. Mark, I made a mistake. It was never supposed to happen like that. I was confused and… No, I interrupted. You weren't confused. You made choices. Repeatedly. And now I'm making mine. I handed her an envelope. Inside was a copy of the divorce papers, my lawyer's letter, and a full list of the evidence I had compiled. I'm not yelling. I'm not fighting. I'm not dragging this through the mud. But make no mistake, Rachel, this is over. I've already filed. You'll receive the full documentation tomorrow. Her hands trembled as she pulled out the papers. You don't have to do this. We can fix it. I've changed, I swear. It's not about fixing it anymore, I said. It's about what you broke. And some things don't come back from that. She sat down like the weight of everything hit her all at once. She tried to cry, to apologize, but I didn't have it in me to comfort her. Not anymore. Instead, I walked out of the room. 2 weeks later, the process was well underway. I stayed calm, professional. I didn't block her from seeing the kids. I wasn't cruel. But I made sure custody went through properly. My lawyer handled everything cleanly. By the time Rachel realized how much she'd lost, financially, emotionally, legally, it was too late. But the real revenge? That came later. About a month after the divorce was finalized, Dan dumped her. Apparently, he didn't like the pressure of being with a woman who'd destroyed her family for him. He ghosted her, stopped answering calls, left the company, deleted his social media. Gone. Just like that. I heard through a mutual friend that Rachel was trying to get back on her feet, living in a small apartment, working the same job, but with fewer friends at the office now. People found out about the affair. No one said anything to her face, but they all knew, and she knew they knew. That's a different kind of punishment, a slow, daily one. As for me, I kept living, moved forward, not bitter, stronger, more present for my kids. I took up running, reconnected with old friends. I even started a new job with a better team, better hours. I wasn't broken by what happened. I was rebuilt. One of my friends asked me if I'd ever consider dating again. I smiled and said, maybe, someday. But for now, I was content knowing that I'd handled it my way, with intelligence, patience, precision, and that in the end, Rachel lost the game she thought she was playing so well. I didn't have to shout. I didn't have to hit back. I just stepped out of the way and let her collapse under the weight of her own decisions. That was my revenge. And it was mind-blowing. Not because it was loud, but because it was complete and permanent.